Check, check. Hello, hello. What up, everybody across the plane? John TheMorgile here, coming to you live for another Static Plane Truth video. Hope y'all are doing very well. And there we go. I'm confirming that I have video and audio. So if you guys can just give me a confirmation in the chat that you can see and hear me well, then I will go ahead and get started with the opening stuff while everyone piles in. We got 13 people watching, so we'll give them a little time to pile in. And what is up, everybody there? We got Joe Mama. Hey, what's up, buddy? Yeah, man, good to see you at the conference as well. John Wick, Dex Sand, Brian Leak, Terry Sims. What is up, everybody's? Okay, good. Resurrection says, Jesus can hear me. I didn't think I was that loud. Awesome. Patrick Jane. What up, Dave Marsh? It's Dave Marsh. Yeah, Mina's gonna come and say hey, because yeah, Dave Marsh is the man. we just sort of made ourselves at home at his hotel room in Denver, and Lily was the guard dog. She made sure the maids didn't come in and clean up the place.
Hi, Dave. What's up?
Let me. Oh, wait a minute. I think you're probably out of the shot. Let me move the thing a little here. There, that ought to do it. Oh, so half of your face. Oh, it's like a 30-second delay.
Oh, is it?
So yeah, let's see. How did I do blind steering the thing? Yeah, not bad. So okay. What is up, Corey Murphy? So yeah, we got to meet Dave Marsh and so many other of the flat Earth people. Man, it was just ridiculous. But I'll get into some stuff about the conference here momentarily. But yeah, what is up, everybody? Bob Saget. Oh man, did you ever hear the aristocrats joke? Oh man, can you believe they let that guy onto family television? I think they did that on purpose because he was like, his comedy was just so in the frickin' gutter.
Yeah, hi, Dave. I want to get with you about those pictures for the calendar that I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, like the whole time I was at the conference, my phone was messed up, so I couldn't get a good signal and it wouldn't hold a charge. And so everybody's I got a few people's numbers that I wanted to get, but there are so many of you guys out there that I wished I would have had business cards or gotten business cards or at least had my phone on me.
Do a shout out to the guy from California.
Yeah, dude from California that has an exotic tree farm. I lost your tin, so I don't have the information. So give me a call, man, because I definitely want to talk to you about some things.
At the end of that, you're going to put the phone number at the end.
I'll put my phone number right now. I mean, don't everybody call me at once, but just call me at 864-315-7892 if you're watching or if you see this. But if not, I will get a hold of you, man.
This has got a delay. Is that going to matter?
What do you mean?
It's got a bad delay. Look.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. It's a 30-second delay.
Oh, okay, cool. All right.
Righto. So several things that we're going to get into, and what's up to Farley and also John Erickson. I'm not going to try to name everybody that I met and contacted at the conference because there was just so many people. But John Erickson, Travis, yeah, well, yeah, we'll just name everybody.
Yeah.
But no, John Erickson, I drove up to Pueblo, Colorado before going to Denver. And he and his wife, Teresa, let us crash there for a couple of days before we headed up to Denver. And we got to see about 7 inches of snow the day that we got into Pueblo. So that was pretty awesome. Haven't seen much snow. All right, you out, babe? Yeah. All right. Haven't seen much snow in quite a while, so that was nice. And the drive was great. The highways were pretty much clear all the way. But it is nice to get a little bit of seasonage sometimes, because down here in Florida, we get hotter, and hottest, and rain. But yeah. So okay, so a little funny story that I'll just sort of tell as everybody's kind of piling into the thing here. But so I was driving home from Denver and I had this hat on. I wasn't wearing the shirt, but I had the hat on. And you know how it is on long drives. You got to pull off sometimes. And I was in the bathroom coming out, and there was a guy coming into the bathroom as I was coming out, and he just asked me, what's up with that hat? And so I told him, well, the Earth's flat and it's stationary, so research flat Earth. That's what it means. and I really had to go, so I sort of rushed into the bathroom and whatever. So as I was coming out, the guy that had asked me about the hat, he was talking to the clerk. So as he was talking to the clerk, he got done talking to him, and I was in line behind him then. And as he finished up talking to him, I said, "So yeah, but definitely look into it. And my channel name is TheMorgile." And uh, as I was trying to tell him just a little bit more about flat Earth in line, he goes, "Stan Lee's dead, dude," and he just stormed out. So apparently the clerk had told him. It was weird. Like, it was the weirdest thing. Like, you're telling someone asked you about your flat Earth hat, which I've never had happen to me because I've never had a flat Earth hat. Thanks to Travis, and actually IPS, which I'll get into that a little bit more. But so yeah, it was a little bit strange because you're telling someone about flat Earth, and then they just bust out with "Stan Lee's dead, dude," and storm out. Like, wow. So that's a first. Normally, like, the reaction is, "Oh, well, what about the ships over the horizon, and what about Eratosthenes and the ancient Greeks, and all the typical globe Earth programming that we know so well." But that was a first. So "Stan Lee's dead, dude," which I didn't know at the time, but apparently, and for those of you who don't know, Stan Lee is the comic guy. He created most of the, is it Marvel or Marvel? Yeah, like, right. Well, most people know who he is. The only reason I know he is because he was right. I never got much into comics, honestly, but he was in the View Askew movies, the Kevin Smith movies, like I think Mallrats was it, and so that was how I ever learned about Stan Lee.
Yeah, and he also made a special appearance in all the other comic movies.
Right. Right. So yeah, he does like cameos in the different Spider-Man movies. So apparently though, but Stan Lee passed away a few days ago on the 8th. And so that's sad. Yeah, drink to that, coffee. Right. So, but that was just sort of, I mean, it's kind of a funny story, but how do you respond to that? Like, I was at a loss for words, like, "Oh, the Earth is flat," and the rebuttal this time was "Stan Lee's dead." So, what can you do, right? I'm not going to argue with the guy. So yeah, so funny stuff. Um, yeah, so okay, so the Flat Earth International Conference in Denver, it was awesome. Denver is the shiznit. Um, yeah, really cool, man. So we got to meet a lot of people. Not going to try to name them all, but
Vegas, Reno.
yeah, oh yeah, Vegas, Reno, California, with the exotic tree farm. Myrtle Beach. Yeah, people from just all over the place.
And don't forget our good friends Michelle.
Yeah.
Her husband. They live in Colorado.
Yeah.
The truckers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there's so many good people, man, and it was weird because, like, you can't really go out and,
I think her husband's name was Chad.
yeah, you can't really go out into a public place with lots of people anywhere and just start talking about flat Earth with pretty much anyone, and they're right on the same level. It's nice because when you're just doing YouTube videos and not getting any reactions, but in the comments, it can be a little bit disheartening because one thing's for sure. The people that are extremely rude and vicious and full of vitriol in the comments would never dare say any of that stuff to your face in real life. And, I think we're all a bit guilty of that at some levels, because you do have the anonymity. You don't get to see how you may hurt someone else's feelings or the repercussions that your actions may have rippling on down through the karmic system.
We had an awesome time.
Yeah, awesome time.
With our Flat Earth family.
Yeah, it feels like family, man. Like, you feel like if you meet someone for the first time and they realize that the Earth is motionless and flat, it's like it's an icebreaker. It's like you don't have to beat around the bush and understand where that person's coming from, and that somebody who understands flat Earth is capable of having a conversation where they can sort of think outside of the box. Right? I mean, somebody that all they do is argue for the globe, you probably can't talk to them about much, in terms of like false flags or 9/11 or the other things. But when it comes to meeting flat earthers in person, and so many of them, just hundreds of them, it's a trip, man. So, I'm gonna try to do as many of the sort of gatherings as possible. And I'm talking to Bling Bling BS of the ISS. about possibly coordinating some Florida meetups and stuff, because I think it would be a lot of fun. Nothing as glamorous as the convention or anything, but just something little where we can all get together and maybe shoot a game of pool, or yeah, maybe shoot a game of pool, or get some bowling going, or whatever, man. Yeah, the beach or something. But I think that would be fun. And after this experience, it was just I was blown away, man. Just an awesome time. So and there's some videos coming out, and actually I got a link sent to me from somebody. I think it was Dave Weiss. And so what I'll do is actually I'll put a link up in the chat, and I will also put a link up in the description. But give me 1 second while Skype loads, and I will have the link for you. Oh, and of course Skype is going to update, so we'll give that a moment. And before we move on to the next topic, I'll just sort of stall and waste time and talk as Skype updates. Righto, so here we go, guys. Sorry, coffee break. Yes, I went to McDonald's and got coffee because it's $1. I know. Okay, so I'm getting the link for you guys, and Skype is just so slow. Maybe I should wait. Watch this crash Google Hangouts. That would be silly. But okay, so one of the things, and of course, as soon as I start talking about the next thing, that's when Skype loads. So let me go to the conversation with Dave Weiss from Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, Ditrh. Always get that wrong. I don't care, Skype. I've got it. Right, so here's the link. Copying link. All right, and here it comes in the chat. And I'll do it again in about 10 seconds, so that by the time the delay catches up with my voice, you will see the link yet again in the chat right now. Right there. So, okay, so at the conference, there was just so much stuff going on, but one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about was a question that was asked by one of the people in the audience to a panel that was up on the stage. And it's a question that comes up a lot, and I've given the topic a great deal of thought, and it's really it's something that that I think needs to be addressed and experimented and looked into by the flat Earth community. And I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff out there about it, but we'll just talk about it for a second. So what the question was, and let me close Skype, otherwise it'll be popping in my ears this whole time. So quit Skype. All right. So the question was, in terms of meteors, so what are meteors, and how can scientists predict when we're going to have meteor showers? Which is it's a legitimate question. In the globe Earth theory, they claim that you have like the asteroid belt millions of miles away in outer space, all adhering to the ecliptic plane, more or less, right? And these errant asteroids knock into each other and break apart, and then they send gobs of meteors and stones through space on a collision course with Earth, and it's sort of a seasonal thing, I guess. And so they know when there's likely to be meteor showers. And that's how they claim it is in the globe Earth theory. But I'm not so convinced. But I think the biggest thing is, like everything else in the globe, they claim that meteors and predictability of meteor showers is exclusive to a spherical Earth. And of course, that's malarkey. Now, how does that work on the flat Earth, right? And this is warning, this is getting into the realm of theory. So this isn't anything that we can necessarily prove or verify, and perhaps we'll never be able to do so. However, when you get into billion-dollar budgets and high-altitude weather balloon technology, perhaps, and this is just a stab in the dark here, but perhaps NASA has higher technology than average Joe public does when it comes to high-altitude weather balloons. And that makes a lot of sense. We've seen videos of crashed weather balloons where if they're in the middle of like the country, in some non-English speaking country, not sure, and there's what appears to be a satellite hanging from a weather balloon in a tree that crashed. Jaron recently, well, the other day, he was playing a video of a satellite, well, a weather balloon that was being launched and took out a couple of cars, and it's a satellite. So meteors are not exclusive to a spherical Earth. Okay, that's the point. Um, and what I think is going on, this is my stab in the dark for that question. Um, we know that the lighter gases, helium and hydrogen, rise naturally. That's how helium balloons work. It's density and buoyancy and temperature differentials and that sort of thing. And so this is my theory, is that at the higher elevations, you have these lighter than air gases, hydrogen, helium, and they're condensing at high levels because of the lack of heat, condensing and perhaps precipitating, because that's what gases do on here on Earth. They find their place of equilibrium in the atmosphere, and then, like in terms of water vapors, something triggers condensation, whether it's a dust particle or whatever it happens to be, triggers condensation, and then you get precipitation. So now, is this cycle of evaporation, condensation, precipitation, say that 10 times fast, is that cycle exclusive to water? Um, Perhaps, but I don't see why it should be. And perhaps you've got these lighter than air gases that are finding their high elevation place of equilibrium, condensing, precipitating back down. And that would be easily predictable if you had some type of technology like Doppler radar, or maybe high altitude weather balloon satellites that are capable of, you know, radar or sonaring the clouds of hypothetical clouds of hydrogen and helium in the high elevations. And just like a rain cloud, they can pretty much predict based on their models when it's going to rain or when it's going to rain down meteors. So, that's my theory. Um, do I have absolute proof of this? No, not necessarily. But we do know that these gases absolutely rise above the troposphere and find their place of equilibrium much higher. And we also know that meteors fall. Now, if you've seen any of the fairly recent videos, say within the last decade or so, of what appear to be meteors or asteroids crashing into the ground, in fact, I saw 3 shooting stars on my drive. Well, altogether on the way up and on the way back, I saw 3 shooting stars that were just so bright. But one thing you'll notice about these shooting stars, and even the very large meteor objects, like I remember seeing one that was shot in Russia, and the concussion like blew out all the windows for a few blocks. But what I've noticed about these shooting stars and about the meteor is that they don't appear to impact the ground, right? There's not like a massive explosion on the ground, and there's a conspicuous lack of craters. If these things are allegedly pelting the Earth pretty much constantly at some place on the Earth, you'd expect there to be quite a bit of craters from them. But it appears they never hit the ground, and as they're coming through the atmosphere, they light up like a matchstick, right? And so what I'm thinking is, okay, what they claim is that they're solid chunks of rock and metal that are coming into the atmosphere at just mind-boggling speeds, dozens or scores of thousands of miles per hour through the atmosphere. And this is actually breaking away the friction of the air in the high velocities is breaking away the rocks and lighting rock up like a matchstick. See, I just have a hard time believing that. But when it comes to some combination of lighter than air gases, hydrogen, for example, hydrogen is very explosive. And so I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that you have chunks of frozen, precipitated ultralight gases. And, as that's coming through the atmosphere at fairly high speeds, because it would be falling through basically a vacuum for a majority of its journey. It would be falling with 0 air resistance, so the terminal velocity of that object would be very high, and it makes sense that it would slow down as it gets through the thicker layers of atmosphere as it gets closer to the ground. And there is another bit of circumstantial evidence for this theory, that is spectroscopy. When they look at spectroscopy or the light signatures from the sun, they find that it is made up of a lot of hydrogen and helium. And so, that's claimed that proves that the sun is made of hydrogen and helium. But as far as I'm concerned, it proves that at least the light from the sun is passing through, or perhaps even being generated by some function of hydrogen and helium at the high altitudes. So, that's my theory about meteors and meteor showers and how they're predictable. And perhaps I'm way wrong, but I don't see why it would be that far out in left field once you already know the Earth's flat and stationary. But so tell me what you guys think. I've mentioned this theory before, but I haven't done too much on it. Oh wow, and a couple of super chats came in. Troy Goodrich, $5. Thank you, sir. Here's to next year's travel fund. Hope to see you guys in Dallas. Oh, the next one's in Dallas? Man.
Hey, we're going to go ride the bull somewhere.
Ride the bull, yeah. Well, we drove through, going up to Denver, we drove through Dallas. I took the most silly route going up there. Well, no, not everybody watching the stream knows it. So, well, I would share my screen, but it's unimportant. Let's just say I lost a lot of respect for people from Dallas when I had to drive through their city Saturday afternoon rush hour, and man, I was literally cussing Dallas for about 150 miles down the road. So, not really. I'm just kidding. But yeah, man, it was murder. Traffic was murder. Oh, it's an awesome city. No, I love Dallas. I was really just kidding. Right, and then Flat Earth Vegans. Hey, what's up, buddy? Glad you made it from home. Glad I made it home, and it was great to meet you. You too, man. It definitely was. I appreciate that super chat. $9.99. Thank you so much, man. Okay, so how do I get off of that? Sorry. Anyways, so let me know what you guys think about the theory in terms of the precipitation of these lighter than air gases or low density gases. So let me try to check the chat, but I can't seem to get off of this super chat. Oh, there we go. Now I feel stupid. Okay. So let me scroll up a bit. It says Paul de Giamaco, Deuteronomy 4:19. When you look to the heavens and see the sun and moon and stars, all the hosts of heaven, do not be enticed to bow down and worship what thee. Oh, you only get so many characters in these chats. So anyway, okay. So yeah, but that's my theory, and maybe I'm wrong, but hey. So, okay. The next thing that I wanted to cover is the California fires. Well, maybe that's switching gears a bit too much. I'm going to save that. I'm going to save that for the end. Actually, that's sort of the main thing that I wanted to talk about. There's a few other things that I wanted to cover first, though. So let's see here. So I did the Stanley thing, Flat Earth International, Denver, meteor showers, and the IPS video. So, okay, here goes nothing on this. When I was at the conference, I was walking my dog because we brought Lily up there. She's an excellent road tripper. She did really well. So anyway, I was walking Lily Saturday morning, one of the mornings, and I was approached by a woman named Morgan, and she was very nice. And I said, "Well, come here and give me a hug," because that was sort of the thing there. How can you meet a flat earther in public and not just give him a hug, right? So she was like, "Well, are you sure you want to do that?" And I'm like, "Well, sure, why not?" Well, and she's like, "Well, when you find out who I am, then you probably don't want to hug me." And I'm like, "Well, no, it's cool." So anyway, she said that a couple years ago I had told her off and really hurt her feelings, and honestly, I don't remember the whole snafu. But it turns out that I didn't verbally say anything like that to her. It was in a comment, and that's what I alluded to earlier, that we get heat from a lot of trolls. When you're in flat earth, you get trolled, man. That's all there is to it. And so I think there's a psychological thing that really works well that these trolls are trying to accomplish, and that is to basically shorten our fuses with one another, at least in the comments, right? So if you get 100 people trolling you and just calling you an idiot and every name in the book, then you get a genuine person that disagrees with you, or maybe says something that triggers you a little bit, right? Well, your fuse is already burned down to nothing, and you may blow up at that person, whether it's verbally or in the comments. And apparently, and I don't remember, but apparently I did sort of told her off in the comments, and it hurt her feelings, and that was wrong of me. I shouldn't have done that, and so I apologized. And it turns out that she's very good friends with IPS, Infinite Plane Society, who was also at the conference. And I had a chance to meet him. And so basically shook his hand, gave him a hug, and he asked me on camera, do I still think he's an Illuminati shill? To which I replied, perhaps, because I really don't know the guy. I was a bit triggered when I made the Illuminati confirmed video that had to do with him and being on a show with known globe Earth trolls like Tim Osman, which isn't his real name, I don't think. But anyway, so the point of all this is that I took down, or I made private, the Flat Earth Illuminati confirmed video that was about, it was a response to that interview with IPS and Tim Osman and all the other guys. So, and the reason I did this was because, as I said, this was a great experience, the whole Flat Earth convention, and it really puts things in perspective where, you know, we do have common ground with every other flat earther out there, as long as they're sincere. Now, I'm not saying that I know that IPS is sincere, and I'm not saying that he's a troll. What I am saying is I made that video private because I met him as a person. I met Morgan as a person who's his good friend. And, you know, I felt bad. I felt like, you know, that there's, according to them, there's been damage done as a result of that video that I did. Okay, and I can't take responsibility for anyone's actions but my own. And apparently, according to IPS, he's being harassed and trolled and doxxed and basically stalked by people who are accusing him of being a Satanist and of this and of that and the other thing. Okay, and so if I had anything to do with that, of him being stalked basically and harassed, I wash my hands of that, and I would encourage anyone that is doing this sort of thing to IPS or anybody to stop. I mean, you know, the video that I put out was a triggered response to something that really pissed me off the way I saw it. And I'm not going to apologize for my emotions, and I'm not going to apologize for the videos that I do. If I make a mistake, you know, I may apologize, but how can you really be sorry for either making a mistake, or how can you be sorry for having your own emotions, right? Not that I'm a slave to my emotions or anything, but at the same time, you know, you can't help but feel the way that you feel sometimes. Now, I will just add, and, you know, he had actually asked me not to mention any of this, but a couple of months ago, I'd gotten an email from IPS, which basically stated that he was being harassed and he was being stalked as a direct result of my video. And he basically gave me an ultimatum to take the video down, or he was going to sue me for slander. And he also mentioned in, well, that was a subsequent email. So what happened was, when I got the email, the way that he had worded it is I kind of thought that it was the other Tim Osman that IPS, or one of the Penguins, which I love the Penguins, but either IPS or one of the Penguins had doxed the wrong guy. And this other guy named Tim Osman, I believe, not the Tim Osman the troll, but just some other random guy that happens to have the same name, was apparently getting stalked and trolled and harassed at his work and at his home, and was getting threats. And so when when IPS emailed me, I had said, "Oh, I think you're looking for IPS because I'm pretty sure he was the one that you know doxed the wrong guy." And so then I got another email back, and he said, "No, this is IPS." Oh, did the stream just really stop? Are you all right?
Yeah,
You're falling
no,
asleep.
no, I was looking at it. No, I was looking down right here.
Oh, well,
No,
are
because
you going to fix that dinner?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, because I can smell it. You need to cut the oven off.
No, I was looking down because
Okay.
that change fell between the seats.
All right, cool. So anyway, where was I at? All right. IPS. Lost my train of thought there. So anyway, you know, the point is, man, leave IPS alone. Like, I'm gonna do the whole Britney thing. No, but you know, we're all people. You know, if you're a flat earther, you know, I can forgive you for pretty much anything. Everybody gets a break as far as I'm concerned. And, you know, if IPS is waking people up to flat Earth, even if I disagree with his Mussolini-style fascism on his channel and that sort of thing, and even though there's some things about him that I didn't really like and I called out, you know, if it's causing violence to be hurled at him unnecessarily in the form of threats and stalking and such, you know, I don't want to have anything to do with that. And, you know, I didn't, when Morgan told me what she said, you know, I can understand that the actions that we choose to make have consequences. And I don't like putting negative vibes out there into the karmic system. You know, that's something that I've learned a long time ago. You're much better off to forgive and love than to hold grudges and that sort of nonsense. So, but anyways, so when he emailed me back the second time, he had put in there that I was slandering him, that I was basically Jew bashing him. I don't know the politically correct way to say that, but he claimed that I was Jew bashing him. And you know, I'll tell you the truth. First of all, I didn't even know he was Jewish. Second of all, I did never say anything about him being Jewish because I didn't know. And third of all, my wife's half Jewish, so I don't have anything against Jews. You know, I'm not Jewish. I'm a mutt. I'm a Mediterranean and European mutt. I'm mostly Greek and Irish, and you know the Irish part of me has a temper. You know, and I try to keep that bottled down, but you know, you can't help who you are sometimes, and so this sort of loops back to the whole in the comments thing. We do tend to say things we wouldn't normally say to a person's face in the comments, and I'm guilty of it, and I don't think it's right. I think that if you're not willing to say something to somebody's face and deal with the repercussions, and that could be anything from hurting their feelings and feeling bad about it to getting punched in the nose or something, head butted in the nose, you know, you're going to have to deal with the consequences face to face. And so, you know, I think that we should advocate for people not saying stuff in the comments that you wouldn't say to someone's face. I mean, I think that's a good personal you know, policy for me, and we'll see how long I can stick to it. Because I'll tell you what, when you get trolled by hundreds of people in the comments, it is difficult to you know, it is difficult to go through even, you know, like a civil disagreement with somebody in the comments. We can be very quick to revert to attacking someone because of disagreements. And, you know, from the flat earth side of this argument, that's kind of a bad place to be. So moving on to the next thing, I wanted to talk a little bit about Christianity and religion in the flat earth movement, because at the conference there was quite a bit of Christian-based speakers, which you know, my position on this, and I don't know if this has been made clear, but I do consider myself a Christian. I believe in God. I believe in the Creator, and I believe in Christ. I don't necessarily believe all of the stories in the Bible, but that's a matter of personal faith. Okay, now when it comes to trying to discuss flat Earth with, say, somebody new to the topic, we all know that one of the biggest dividing factors in the world that you can talk to someone about is, well, religion and politics. You know, that's what they say. That's the old cliche. And so, you know, first of all, the Bible wasn't written in a context to either prove or disprove the shape of the earth. Clearly, Genesis speaks of a fixed and immovable earth. Extra biblical texts speak of a, you know, the circuit of the sun and the moon, like the book of Enoch goes into great detail of the paths of the sun and the moon, which are completely incompatible with the ball earth model. So there definitely is a connection between Christianity and really all major religions. All of the ancient religions had flat earth geocentric cosmologies. Every last one of them, every ancient culture, religion were flat earthers. So it's not just Christianity, okay? And so when this is my point, when you start bringing Christianity into the topic as your cutting edge of your argument, what that's going to do, in my opinion, is it's going to turn at least half of the people you approach off immediately. Because if somebody's an atheist, or if someone's, say, a Buddhist or whatever, if you make it appear to them that flat Earth is a Christian thing, then you're going to lose people on that point. Because I'll be the first to tell you, you can be a flat earther without being a Christian, or without believing in anything spiritual. So it is not exclusive to Christians. And in fact, if you approach Christians with flat Earth, most of them will tell you that you're absolutely crazy, even though it clearly says in their book, in the Bible, that the Earth is fixed and immovable, and the circuits of the sun and all this other stuff. So, I think the point that I'm trying to make is that um, if you lead your argument of flat Earth with Christianity without feeling the person out that you're discussing this with, you're going to lose points. Well, not points. You're going to lose interest, and you're going to impress upon that person that flat Earth is some stupid Christian thing. Okay. Now, on the other hand, once a person understands that the Earth is flat and stationary, a lot of times that leads them to a spiritual higher place. A lot of people convert into Christianity and other religions when they realize flat Earth. And so, I think that sort of comes with the whole thing anyway, is this spiritual awakening. But if you try to force that spiritual awakening through Christianity, leading your edge into flat Earth, I just see that as a bit of almost like suicide when it comes to your mission, for at least half of the people. Um, and this is just my opinion, but I see no place in the convincing others of flat Earth. I see no place in saying, and if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, you're going to hell for infinity. Um, I just don't think, I don't think that works. But at the same time, I'm not trying to bash Christianity or anything. I just think that if we're trying to uh, show people flat Earth, we need to be as compatible as possible. And like I said, instantly, when you bring religion into this conversation, you're instantly going to be absolutely incompatible with probably more than half of the people you discuss it with. So that's just my 2 cents on that. Um, because there were some great Christian speakers at the convention, and they made a lot of really good points. And I love that stuff. I love looking at flat Earth. I'm sorry, looking at the Bible with flat Earth eyes. It's freaking awesome. It's like a whole new way of looking at the biblical text, and even things like the ancient Indian texts, like the Mahabharata and all the other things, where this is all ancient cultures knew the Earth was flat. It is not exclusive to Christianity, and to present it as such, to present flat Earth as if it is exclusive to Christianity, to me is disingenuous. Okay, so what can you do about that? So moving right along, my wife a couple of years ago had tried to get me to watch this movie. It's called Agora, Agora, and I put it up on Google Drive. I'll put a link for it. Actually, there already is a link in the description, and I will put it in the chat box as well. But it's a movie, like a mainstream movie about Hypatia, who was basically like the first ancient truther chick ever. And there were some really interesting things in there. The movie was made in 2009, and there's some flat Earth stuff in there for sure. So I just put a link in the chat box, and I believe there's one in the description. Yep, in the description. That goes to the Google Drive, where you can either stream it or you can download it. So check that out. But so I'm just going to go over a couple of things that we watched in the movie. So in Agora, it's a movie about Hypatia, who was again this ancient Roman chick who was basically a science truther. She was very much using the zetetic method way back then, and she was asking a lot of questions. And where she ultimately arrived, I'm not 100% clear.
She was in Roman Alexandria, where they
Right.
built the library.
Right. So it was where in Alexandria in Rome, where the library was burned down, that famous burning of the library by the Christians. And so during this movie, though, one of the things that they did, and I guess I could play the clips, but you know what? I don't want to get a copyright strike, so I'm not going to play the clips, but I'll describe it. So during the movie, she's doing all these experiments to try to figure out what the Earth is. They're trying to figure out whether it's flat or whether it's geocentric or whether it's heliocentric. And so they're going over all this stuff. And, I'm really surprised I haven't seen anything about this movie in the flat Earth community, because it hits on a lot of things. And this is way before, this is 2009. That's 6 full years before I even looked into flat Earth. And yeah, again, my wife, Mina, recommended it. She had watched it a couple years ago and thought that I would like it. And as usual, I ignored her. I'm an expert at blocking out my wife's voice like it's amazing. Like, no offense or anything. She's giving me the go to hell look.
Who's the original truther?
No, but really, yeah, it was pretty good. So okay, so not Eratosthenes, Hipparchus. No, it was one of these ancient Greek dudes. They were trying to, maybe it was Ptolemy. They were trying to either confirm or enhance Ptolemy's models, because I think Ptolemy was in 200 or 300 BC, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. And this was in 391 AD when Hypatia was around and kicking. So during the movie, they did a lot of experiments. They were trying to just confirm where they live. So one of the experiments that they did was the dropping a bag from the mast of a moving ship. So this would be similar to what Robotham described in Zetetic Astronomy, the book, only not quite. So what they do is they take a big bag of sand and they take it up to the mast, probably 20 foot, 40 foot up on a big ship. And as the ship's going, say 5 or 10 miles an hour or whatever, well, however fast they're going, they drop the bag straight down. And Hypatia predicted that the bag would land behind, because the ship's moving. She predicted that the bag would take a trajectory towards the rear of the ship's path.
Because all the other people said so, but she was going to prove different. She thought it was different because she kept looking for the truth.
Right. Well, so what she was trying to figure out was how whether it was possible to have the spinning ball Earth as a fixed frame of reference. And so if you're on a ship that's in motion and you drop the bag, that would be tantamount to, some kind of experiment. If you drop an object from a stationary building, it falls straight down. Now, her prediction was that if the Earth were spinning, then the thing would not drop straight down. But in doing the experiment on the ship, it proved that, in theory, you could have a moving surface like the spinning ball Earth and drop an object straight down, and it will continue on its trajectory at a diagonal angle, maintaining its angular momentum essentially as it falls. And so that does prove that to a degree. Now, what Robotham did differently is he actually shot a cannon up, and the ball came back down. And on a still day, sometimes the ball would land back into the barrel of the cannon that fired it. And that's a little bit different physics than simply dropping something. And that was actually mentioned in Zetetic. So without getting too much into detail in that, what Hypatia failed to understand or failed to account for was acceleration of that dropping bag. Okay, because if you have, say, a ship or the spinning ball Earth as your reference frame, it only works as a fixed frame of reference if there's no acceleration either aligned to or contrary to the path or to the velocity or the path of travel of the primary body. Okay, so distilling that down and unpacking that a bit, let's say you've got the good old going straight down the set of tracks in a rail train. Okay, and let's say it's a very long rail train that you can freely walk through the cars, and it's going 50 miles an hour straight down a track, doesn't hit any bumps, so you've got 50 miles an hour as your reference frame. Now, if you take a little drone, and I really so want to do this, I just need to buy a drone. I want one so bad. So take a little drone and take it off inside of the train. And as long as you don't accelerate that thing, you know, left to right or side to side, and as long as the train doesn't make any turns or accelerate or brake, that drone is going to hover in perfect lockstep with the frame of reference as the train. And that works. And in theory, that sort of favors a spinning ball Earth model. But that's the extent to which that works. Um, if you start taking that drone and say accelerate it opposite the path of travel as the train, or accelerate it in conjunction, or you know, in a similar path of velocity as the train, you're going to have different effects. Okay, and so what this proves, and you can do this experiment, it's not really necessary, but there's low-tech ways you can do it. What this proves is that, say, a westbound flight on the spinning ball Earth should be much swifter in duration than an eastbound flight, right? Because basically what they claim, and this is because sometimes an eastbound flight is identical in duration to its return flight. And what they claim on the ball Earth here is they claim that as a plane goes and takes off west, even no matter how fast it accelerates towards the west, it maintains its eastbound velocity indefinitely, forever. So you take off going west and accelerate, say, 500 miles an hour. Well, you're continuing going 1,000 miles an hour east as you do that, which makes absolutely no sense. So here's a low-tech way you can verify this. Anyone can do it, and I don't want to hear a word out of the trolls until you've done this experiment yourself. Get on a train, wait for it to go straight, and sprint or jog or skip to the rear of the train as it's moving. And I promise you, guarantee it, because I've done it before myself, as you run to the rear of the train, it feels like you're reaching the rear of the train and passing by the other passengers and passing by the chairs fixed to the train much more swiftly, going in the opposite direction as the train and those objects, as compared to running towards the front of the moving train. You feel sluggish running towards the moving front of the moving train compared to running towards the rear. This is basic, immutable physical laws that any child could verify. And what this proves is that if the Earth was a spinning ball, westbound flights should be much, much shorter in duration relative to eastbound flights. And again, it's because everything's supposedly spinning towards the east. Right. And so what Hypatia failed to realize is just that. Sure, the drop the bag on the moving ship experiment works, but only if you do not accelerate that bag. And of course, they didn't have airplanes or even automobiles back in 391 AD. And so the moment was like an aha, as she had her wheels grinding that the Earth might be going around the sun. She was humoring that hypothesis. And so, you know, the experimental data does sort of kind of jive with that theory, but also if you look further into it and you have technologies like drones or planes or trains or whatever, you'll find that in fact, a body in motion can only act as a fixed frame of reference for a secondary object that is not accelerated away from that frame of reference. Okay, so and you can even take that train example even further and say the train is constantly making a left turn. It's not going straight down the tracks anymore. If that train's constantly making a left turn, you fly that drone up, take it off, and hover it, and it's going to start naturally moving towards the outside of that the path of the curve. So if the train was turning left the whole time, the drone would naturally sort of phase off to the right until it hit the wall, right? And so the same exact thing should be happening when it comes to orbital mechanics, going around a long orbital curve, allegedly, as well as axial rotation, going along the curve of the Earth at over 1,000 miles an hour. So there should naturally be acceleration built in to the spinning ball Earth, and you should be able to measure that. There is no way to measure that acceleration because it doesn't exist. A video, if they don't just copyright strike it down or whatever. But it seems to me like this was indoctrination, and I have that perhaps they're misrepresenting Hypatia's ultimate, position on
her
things.
ultimate goal was to find the truth,
Uh,
and she just
can
didn't.
you guys let me know in the chat? Can you hear Mina talking when she talks? Because I hate to leave y'all hanging every time she talks. I don't know if I can switch my mics out live, but no, let me know in the comments if you guys can hear her. So go ahead.
No, I was just saying, even though she had all those scholars that was before her and everything, she just kept seeking the truth. She didn't take it, literally. She just kept wanting to find the truth, and she kept doing experiment after experiment. And what made her so good about it is that she, I don't want to give away the end of the movie or anything.
Okay, they can barely hear you. So
okay,
yeah, all right.
Watch the movie.
Yeah, so watch the movie again. I'll put it up in the chat box where I've got it on Google Drive. If you're not able to like torrent it or whatever, so you can stream or download it. It's definitely worth a watch, and it's got some experiments in there that are just really interesting. And oh, and I've got some more that I wanted to talk about too. So the bag on drop, drop bag on ship, Earth is round, Earth is flat scene. Is a really cool scene where they're arguing whether the Earth is round or flat, and it's funny because again this came out in 2009. This is a mainstream production. I think the movie kind of flopped, but there's a scene where these guys are arguing about the Earth being round or flat and whether or not it's spinning, and so yeah, this is what I wanted to share with you guys here too. All right, so I found this article, and let me actually I'll share my screen for this. So hopefully I don't give away my link to the trolls. Let me share my screen here. Oh, I got to go to that side of it. Whoops. Come here, you. All right, share my screen. Share my screen. And hopefully y'all can see that. I'll come over to my live stream just to make sure that that you can see my screen. So bear with me 1 second. And I think there's about a 30-second delay. There we go. All right, so you can definitely see my screen now. Great. So this article, what did Hypatia really know? The science of Agora. It's pretty much scathing on this movie, and well, I'll just read through a couple things. So it says here, okay, with almost no cinema distribution and with the sales of the DVD virtually non-existent, Agora will probably vanish almost without a trace, not unlike its main character. The life of an historical figure few have heard of seems not to be a commercial proposition, even when it gets generally good reviews on film buff blogs. But there have been some heated debates online. Although any film where religion is a key part of the plot could upset someone somewhere, most of the discussion I have seen has been about how accurate a portrayal it was. The historical background is one thing, but the question I find most interesting is what Hypatia actually did or didn't do. Where does Hypatia fall in the history of science? The film proposes that she was working on the problem of whether the Earth or the Sun was at the center of the universe, and this quest is central to the character as she is portrayed. Excuse me. It is a bold assertion because we have none of her actual works to refer to. Excuse me. Yeah, so it's like that to me is fishy, right? Like Jaron brings up all the time that people cite the works of like Plato and Eratosthenes and Hipparchus and all these ancient people, but apparently there are no original records or books or writings of these super ancient people.
Only her notes survived.
It says we have none of her actual works to refer to.
Works, but her notes she wrote down.
But the point is though is that they can't hear you, so it's just going to ruin it. What was I saying? I don't even know what I was saying. Yeah, well, it says that here that there are no original works of hers, and this a similar thing can be said about all the other ancient philosophers, where uh, you can find a copy of their work, and if you look at where they sourced that from, it was a copy of a copy. Change languages, stuff gets lost in translation, then we still don't have any proof that this ancient stuff actually happened, other than historians' accounts of it later on. So let me continue reading on because this is pretty interesting. What did the ancients know about the world? If you aren't familiar with this period, it might come as quite a surprise just how much they worked out. For a start, it was not believed that the Earth was flat. Everyone knew the Earth was round. This is so trivially easy to prove, and I'm quoting here, so don't get mad at me. This is in particular, I could have worked it out myself as a child. Growing up besides the English Channel, I could see that only the tops of ships out at sea were visible. There's a song that goes, "They all laughed at Columbus when he said the world was round." In reality, he would have been laughed at for saying the world was flat. So this is the lie of history, or maybe it's the question of history, because first of all, the claim that this author could have worked out that the earth was round as a child is absurd. Um, there are no indicators anywhere in the world that a child or a rational adult would or could even remotely possibly construe as obvious, clear evidence that the earth is a spinning ball. The only thing that suggests that we may be spinning is the stars and the wandering stars. And really, you don't really notice that with the naked eye. You'd have to study the stars a bit to even consider the possibility that the Earth may be spinning. But doesn't it make equal amount of sense that the stars or the ether or the magnetic field of the Earth could be spinning that causes the apparent rotation of the stars or the actual rotation of the stars? You know, the notion that any old child could surmise easily that the Earth is a spinning ball is absurd, and it goes to show you the depth of the programming that we've all been subjected to. Um, Apparently, and I've seen this sort of thing before. People believe that the impossible falsity of the spinning ball Earth is obvious, and that's how damn good of a job they've done with this particular mind control operation. Similarly, to a child, obviously the Easter Bunny is real, right? I mean, I saw the giant bunny hiding eggs, on Easter, and my parents would never lie to me, so clearly, obviously, the Easter Bunny's real, right? I mean, that's the same sort of logic that goes into the ball Earth. And so the other thing too that they said in this article that I thought was kind of funny is they said, for a start, it was not believed back in, say 400 AD that the earth was flat. Everyone knew the world was round. Now, that is just utterly ridiculous because again, all ancient cultures had at least geocentric and even flat earth geostationary models of the cosmos. And for people to make this sweeping assumptive statements like that, it was not believed that the earth was flat in 400 AD. Well, really? So why is it that we learn in school that 500 years ago, people were so stupid they thought the earth was flat? Why is it that the oldest known globe ever built was made about 500 years ago, the same year that Columbus discovered America? Isn't that funny? So why didn't they have globes before 1400s? If everyone knew the Earth was a globe, why weren't all the maps made out of globes until the 1400s? Huh? Could it be that in the late 1400s, that's when they started indoctrinating children that the Earth was a ball, and they used Columbus's almost circumnavigation or Magellan's circumnavigation to spurn this belief in a ball? Because it is asserted by Team Globetard that circumnavigation east to west is exclusive to a spherical Earth, just like everything else they claim is exclusive to a ball. But when you look simply at the AE projection, you can show an example of how you can have circumnavigation on a plane with a central North Pole, and it works out pretty much exactly the same as the ball, at least from the northern hemisphere down to the equator in that model or in that projection. So just all sorts of just negativity here, ignorance, and just false claims, boastful false claims. Oh, the world is so round and spinny. Even a child would know that. Oh my God, give me a break. Give me a break. So if even a child could have worked it out, why did it take, thousands of years of history to build the first globe? You know, why do we learn in school that flat earthers thought if they sailed too far in the 1500s or in the 1400s, if they sailed too far, they'd fall off the edge of the flat earth? So what story is it? because this is what it seems like to me. If we can believe the accounts of the ancient Greeks, say Eratosthenes, even though we don't have any of their original writings, it's all pretty much hearsay. If we go back and look at Eratosthenes, um, did he, did he know the Earth was flat? Did he know the Earth was round? Did he assume that the Earth was a ball? Did he work out mathemagic? And I guess let me stop sharing. Oh, wait a minute. No, I wasn't done, or was I? Let me look at my little notes here. Oh yeah, Earth is round. Okay, Hypatia describes complexity of epicycles. Well, I'll save that for the video because I'm going to try to get those clips in there, but definitely check out the movie. I think that kind of wraps up what I was going to do on the Agora movie, but let me one more time share the link to the video in the Google Drive. Okay. So yeah, check that out. It's you can download it or stream it. All right. So yeah, let me stop sharing. Oh, I hope it doesn't give away my link. There, stop sharing. Okay. So moving right along, this is the main thing that I wanted to talk about, and that's so weird. The live stream has been stuck at 220 people watching for like the whole time. So I guess there's exactly 220 people out there that are watching, and yeah, weird. Like usually it fluctuates. I don't know. I'm just weird like that. I look at numbers and say, wait a minute, that's kind of weird. Why has it been stuck at 220? It's like Google put the damn governor on my stream. All right. So, okay, so the California fires, this is something that I've been following pretty heavily. I haven't done any videos on it because, I'm certainly no expert in conflagrations. But, Jamie from a plaintruth.info channel has done a lot of good stuff on the California fires, directed energy weapon theory. He was actually at the conference, but I did not get a chance to meet him. So I wished I would have, but, anyways. So the Do Weapons, I would refer you to that channel at plaintruth.info if you want to just watch a lot of commentary and compilations of the different fire stories. But this one here that's just sort of happened and is still being tallied up in Paradise, California. Man, there is something fishy about that. Let me tell you. I don't know how much, I guess you guys probably know a lot more about the Paradise wildfires than me. Because I was out of pocket all week, and so I haven't even really looked at anything online all week. I left my computer at home, and my laptop's messed up. So anyway, all of your Hal Us says all of your California belong to China now. What about Logan Paul? Yeah, I'm not getting into that. It was just some drama, and maybe he'll do good stuff for Flat Earth, but I don't want to get into that right now. If you guys probably know about it, and I'm just not about the drama. But if the guy's a flat earther, more power to him. And I just hope that we as flat earthers can at least make an effort to come together a little bit more and not divvy up ourselves, because the old fascist logo. Um, you know, what is the old fascist motto? It's oh yeah, no, stand alone, stand together, die trying. I don't know. The cliche, right? We stand together or we die alone. That's it. So maybe we need to get a little bit more fascist.
Together we stand, divided we fall.
Yeah, together we stand, divided we fall. Thank you. And Ashley Hartz, I would love to smoke with you as well. Yeah. Oh man, Colorado is the most awesome place ever. Most awesome place ever. For real. Okay. So the campfire that they're calling it, I assume since they were calling it a campfire that it was started by a campfire. And again, this is in Paradise, California. The last I checked, there was almost 1,000 missing and 80 people died in that fire. And the whole town's wiped out. It's so sad. And like, there's a few videos online you can find. People are driving out of Paradise, California in the fires. And apparently a lot of people died in their cars trying to do that. And it was so weird because they're driving through maybe just a couple of minutes and it's just fire everywhere, fire on the road, trees falling down. It's very scary. And then they come around a bend through the smoke and boom, it's gone. No fire, blue skies, clear sailing. And this, I saw this on a couple of videos. And, you know, it's just so weird how precise, accurately these fires in California are being lit. Um, I think that there is definitely some evidence here that that these are directed energy weapons. We're seeing a lot of similar stuff that we saw for 9/11 in terms of Dr. Judy Wood's directed energy weapon presentations. Where did the towers go? The book and presentations. We're seeing similar traits here. In fact, let me go ahead and share my screen again because I had a couple of just still images I wanted to share. So let's try this again. Oh, I will. I won't forget them. Yeah. Okay. I'm not talking to myself. I'm talking to my wife. Y'all can't hear. All right. Oh man. So how am I supposed to do this now? Crap. I think I just no, you stupid thing. Okay. There we go. Sorry guys. I'm like cussing out my computer trying to. There we go. Sharing my screen. So what I wanted to share with you. Here we go. So we saw a lot of this in the videos. Oh, let me make sure y'all can see my screen. Okay, cool. Right, so this looks to me, and there's lots of different instances of this, where it's just like melted metal coming out of the bottoms of these cars. I was thinking it's like the engine block, because in the newer cars, well, really starting in I think the 1970s, they started making the engine blocks out of aluminum. Not all the time, but some of the time. And this looks like aluminum to me. So it's like all of the metal melted. Now, at first, I was like, well, you know, that's impossible. But let's see, I've got a notes here somewhere. Aluminum melting point is 1200 degrees Fahrenheit, and wildfires, natural brush fires, can get up to 1400 degrees Fahrenheit. So technically, it is possible to melt aluminum with a wildfire. My cigarette keeps going out. I'm not chain smoking, I promise. Um, it's but it is possible to melt aluminum with a wildfire. But man, that would have to be, you know, it'd have to be long-term extended burning. And I believe, you know, these cars. There, I saw a video, and maybe I should pull it up. I guess I probably should. Let me pull the video up. Where they're driving down the road through Paradise, California, and there's all these cars on the side of the road that you can see all their damn aluminum engine blocks had melted out of them. I mean, that's really weird, man. I mean, I've been around and I've seen a lot of
doors and stuff are melting and dropping down.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff in my life, and I've seen plenty of fires. Um, and you know, I'm sure as a kid, I've thrown aluminum cans into a campfire probably a million times, and never do I remember seeing the aluminum cans melt in a fire. Do you? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like an aluminum beer can or a soda can or anything, it doesn't melt in a fire. So, like, how is this? Let me see if I can find it because I watched several of these, but there was one in particular where I think it was this one, but I don't know. Well, look, here's another. Yeah, this is it right here. Here we go. So you can't hear the sound, and hopefully I don't get a strike on this, but you'll notice, see that there's the engine block melted right here, and all the aluminum off the car. There's one. There's another one right there. Look at that. And there's several more, but like, you know, that's just crazy to me. Because what kind of a technology is being used where cars on the side of the road are near a brush fire and they're freaking all the aluminum in the car starts melting away into like nothing? Yeah, I will. So, you know, it's just crazy. And, you know, I don't know what you guys think about this, but maybe, you know, put something in the comments here. And I've just never seen anything like that, where aluminum out of cars is just melting like that. I mean, really, what did they like? How does that happen? I don't see how that happens. Directed energy weapons, right? Well, Resurrection just said it in the comments. Directed energy weapons makes sense.
Burning twice as fast.
Yep.
Really.
Well, you'll see videos and pictures of entire neighborhoods burned down, where the houses burned down to the foundation with pretty much no rubble, not even a toilet or a refrigerator or a oven or anything standing, which is very strange. Pardon me, guys. I'm so sorry. I know that probably hurt your ears. But then there'll be trees and pieces of paper right in the same vicinity that don't burn. So, like, how is that possible where it gets hot enough to melt aluminum? So that's at least 1200 degrees Fahrenheit, but not hot enough to burn paper. Or, it's crazy. So some of the comments here: directed energy weapons, yeah. Jack, flat Earth. Um, Q question stuff. I've lost count of the fires I've been through and seen the damage in Australia. I've seen things melt, but never to this extent. This defies physics. I agree. I totally agree because you got to remember too, if that is engine blocks, like I think it is, that's a lot of damn metal, a lot of heavy aluminum. That's in the doors, but the aluminum in particular, because I know for a fact I've done this experiment where I've thrown an empty soda can into a campfire, even a bonfire, and no, the thing never melted. You'll pick the little charred can out, but melted, I mean, that is just absolutely crazy. Beer cans melt in campfires. Well, Born on the Water disagrees, so maybe we're wrong. What kind of campfires you lighting, Born on the Water? No, I believe you. I mean, I'm not going to call you a liar. I've just never seen that.
Weird type of melting. It was almost like
Yeah, it melted them down to liquid. I mean, and that you're talking about thick hunk of engine block metal, right? So, okay, going more comments here. Harry Hempworth. Oh, wait a minute. I went down too far. Let's see. Resurrection says lots of trees left. Yeah. Catherine O'Connell says plastic bins were still standing, right? Uh, Poopy Pants 69 says you can melt aluminum in a campfire if you use a bellows. Okay, well, and that's the other thing. I did call the Butte County and just asked them about controlled burns and what their controlled burn schedule had been like. And she said that they do controlled burns all the time there, but it is the winds. They have some sort of a vortex wind that comes down through the canyon, and they get 50-mile-an-hour gusts or really strong sustained winds there. Now, yeah, 80 miles an hour that day. Now, here's the thing, if they were doing controlled burns properly, they wouldn't have had to they wouldn't have had these extent of fires in their properties, I don't think. Now, I did a little bit of research into, because I had heard this topic brought up before, and I did a little bit of research into bureaucracy, basically, preventing or getting in the way of preventative fire maintenance. So, in preventative fire maintenance would be things like cutting back forests, doing prescribed controlled burns, which gets rid of all that underbrush and prevents these wildfires from spreading so quickly. But according to the county, what I got them on the phone and talked to them, they said they do controlled burns all the time. But see, here's the thing: in California, and maybe I should read this from the article, but I'll just paraphrase. They have issue with bureaucracy in terms of the fire department. So from what I gather, and I could cite you a reference from an article I read, but Firefox crashed and I couldn't find the damn article again, but I will if I need to. Anyway, paraphrasing, what happens is there's more money in it involved for the firefighters, for the fire masters or whatever. There's more money in it for them to go out and put out existing wildfires than there is to go in and do the hard work of cutting back trees and doing prescribed burns. So for decades, the state of California had a policy to do no prescribed burns. There was no budget for it. And within the last few decades, they do budget for preventative maintenance, so controlled burns and cutting back, but they don't spend nearly as much on preventative stuff as they do on going out and fighting these brush fires. And so it's a bureaucracy getting in the way of people's safety, and now it's costing lives. Now, again, I had thought this was a campfire had started it, but apparently it looks like is that PG&E, the electric company out there in California, had a high voltage line near the it's called the Poe Dam. And within 15 minutes of that high voltage problem, they got these fires breaking out, and they spread just ridiculously. It spread within 15 minutes over 10 acres, which is that's a big area. And now, of course, it's way larger than that, the fire. But yeah, within 15 minutes, it spread over 10 acres. So, you know what that tells me is that they weren't doing controlled burns like they were supposed to. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had these issues. And so, no, that was something else. And so, you know, if you've got high voltage power lines that there were some residents that I was watching videos, residents there that said they had gotten a notice from PG&E, the power company, that they were going to be shutting off all the power from the office in order to prevent more fires. And of course, according to some people, they never did turn the power off. And so when you've got these high voltage lines going through the forests, you know, that's prime area where you need to cut that overgrowth back and do controlled burns around, you know, the vicinity, not right under the power lines, of course. But it just seems to me like this was poor planning and bureaucracy getting in the way and money getting in the way of what these fire fighters and planners are supposed to be doing. So again, instead of going through the hard work and you know, difficult planning of cutting the stuff back and prescribed burns, they do put some of their budget towards preventative, but the majority of their budget goes into putting out fires because there's more glamour in it, there's more money in it, apparently, according to the articles that I've read. And I mean, isn't that just a shame, right? It's a damn shame when money and bureaucracy gets in the way of you know, life-saving services. So I'm certainly not saying, you know, that PG&E is at fault or the fire people did bad planning. It's their fault. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that I think it could have been prevented. And PG&E, you know, man, they're responsible for a lot of bad stuff that just happened. I mean, this is just absolutely crazy how 1,000 people missing still right now. I mean, I wish I was closer to California. I'd go out there and help. But there's no way I'm driving. There's no way I'm driving. Yeah, well, that was the other thing I was going to mention too. The National Guard you would have thought would have been called in when this thing started getting bad, but they waited to dispatch the National Guard only to help um, clean up, basically tally up the dead and the injured and help clean up. But they weren't there to help fight the fires. They weren't there to help evacuate. The fire started on the 8th, and the National Guard, the military, wasn't sent in until the 14th. So, you know, there's another thing that maybe could have been done differently. Um, Now, here's another bit of circumstantial evidence that I think ties into this and some stuff we talked about a couple of weeks ago. But, you know, we all got that presidential alert thing on our phones. Um, a lot of people, according to what I gather, that lived in Paradise and the surrounding areas never got any sort of warning, never got any sort of evacuation order until it was right time. Now, again, this thing did spread quickly, but I don't know if I believe the claim that a downed power line caused this. So let me share my screen again because I found on High Impact Vlogs channel, he had linked up a video that was oh, I am still sharing. Okay, I'm still sharing my screen. Well, that's great. So let me grab this then. So this is yet another thing I got to sort of um, dovetail off into as well. Now, this is a satellite image of the fire. So just check this out for a minute. I'm going to let this play because, wow. Oh, of course, there's an ad. Sorry. Skipping the ad, skipping the ad. Okay. So this is you know, a satellite high altitude weather balloon image of the fire. And what you'll see, it's almost like a ball of light shoots out of the ground right as this thing starts. And honestly, it kind of looks like a dang volcano blows up. So let's look at this a little bit bigger. I don't know if you guys have, oh, excuse me. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Excuse me, I got the hiccups now. Hey, babe, could you get me my coffee out of the fridge? Thanks. Um, but yeah, take a look at this, and you can see the animation, how the thing casts a shadow, and you probably can't see it too good, but you see how there's like a little ball of fire that like shoots up and lands, and then you get all this smoke. It looks like a, I guess that's a time lapse, but it looks like a doggone. There you go. Looks like a volcano erupted. Gosh, the cat got my tongue. And so let me throw a link. I'll put it in the show notes. Oh, thank you. Um, throw a link up in the show notes. But man, just look at this one more time. That thing. This wildfire sparked up and went out of control like immediately. And unless there was just absolutely piss poor controlled prescribed burns, this is what they sort of want us to believe, is that they did controlled burns and they were on top of that, and yet one single high voltage failure and the whole damn town goes up in flames. Now, I'm sorry, that either proves to me that you have done practically no controlled burnings, or this is something else. And I think that my personal opinion is that this is something else, because these fires in California apparently are burning hotter, burning differently than fires have done in the past. And according to the people in charge there in California, this is the new normal. So people are going to have to get used to wildfires burning hotter and burning longer, right? So I don't know, what does this prove? I mean, again, my opinion is it either proves that they are doing a piss poor job with their job in terms of controlled burns, or if they're on top of their game when it comes to that sort of thing, then it proves that this is, to me, something other than just a high voltage fire. Um, because this is, I don't see how this is normal. Melting the aluminum blocks out of cars that are just in the vicinity of the fire, not even really necessarily on fire. Pieces of paper and trash cans not burning, but melting aluminum. I mean, come on. If you don't see there's something wrong with this, I don't know what to tell you. But of course, when you start saying things like directed energy weapons, you're instantly wearing a tinfoil hat, according to anyone who's like normie normal from the outside looking into what your claims are. But at the same time, I mean, there is mounting evidence. Look at the map lines of the Agenda 2030 or the Agenda 2050 areas, these cordoning off of people that they want to do, matches right up with where these precision fires are happening. These precision wildfires. I mean, isn't that something? I tell you, never in a million years did I think that we would be using the term with a straight face, precision wildfires, because somehow the exact plans of these Illuminati asshole guys in Agenda 2030 or whatever are lining up perfectly with these precision wildfires, right? I mean, my goodness, what is this world coming to? So there was that. Hopefully you guys were able to see it, but let me put this link up. I'll throw it in the show notes, and I will also throw it in the chat. So let me grab this. Wildfire satellite. Okay, now we're going to talk about the satellite. Okay. And again, this is the satellite that allegedly took these shots. Okay. So, oh, and let me stop sharing. Okay. So let me get back here. So the satellite is called MIMIC, Morphed Integrated Microwave Imagery at CIMSS. So what they're claiming is that MIMIC, and again, this is where they got that footage of the fire from space. MIMIC is a data blending technique which combines disparate swaths of microwave observations from polar orbiting satellites in order to create near seamless animations of advecting radiance features. It builds off of the methods used in Mimic TC, which depicts microwave imagery of tropical cyclones in regular time. Mimic TPW was originally developed as an experimental, near real-time visualization tool, utilizing microwave-derived moisture fields to follow the development and progression of cyclones spawning easterly waves in the cyclone impeding Saharan air layer in the North Atlantic Ocean. It has since been expanded to operate worldwide with finer resolution displays to fit the needs of our end users. Okay, so basically what they're saying is that they have an array of satellites, and I would imagine that these would be geostationary satellites. Most weather satellites are geostationary, but the point is that these arrays of high altitude satellites are not exclusive to a sphere or infinite space, because long before satellites ever existed, the military was using high altitude weather balloons to achieve the same ends and achieve the same functions as satellites. The only difference is that the high altitude weather balloons are a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the cost. They are also much closer to where they're transmitting and receiving from on the ground, so the signal would be better. Did I mention it costs way less? And it's just much easier to simply launch up a weather balloon than it is to try to put something into orbit. Agreed? And so the idea that this sort of video, these sort of weather satellites somehow prove that they're up there in space, to me is ridiculous. This is you would have an array of high altitude weather balloons peppered across, this area, and you put all those signals together, compile them together, and you get this sort of compilation image or simulation, right? An animation. But this doesn't at all prove that there's satellites up there. And again, you can achieve the same exact ends with weather balloons for practically nothing. When you're comparing the billions that it costs to launch a rocket and pay all those frickin' astroliers, no, you can launch up probably thousands of geostationary weather balloons for just a fraction of the cost of launching a single rocket into the ocean, right? So, just more of these, they even try to pass off Doppler radar as satellites. They get away with it because so many misnomers and just globe Earth trolling has been integrated with our vernacular. Even the word like global being applied to worldwide. I mean, just so many things are subtly conditioning us into belief in the globe. And this sort of thing with the satellite images of the fire from space, another example of how the media is complicit in this sort of programming. So I think there was something else I wanted to mention about the satellite, but I think that covers it. That just because we have these satellite images, it doesn't prove the globe. It doesn't prove NASA's really up there. Again, they can do the same thing with weather balloons. I know for a fact that the U.S. military was using weather balloons for spying purposes back during World War II and probably longer ago than that. And so just what kind of sense does it make to reinvent the wheel when it comes to something like that? If weather balloons are capable of doing this, cheaper, easier, better signal because they're closer, why would you go to invent satellites to achieve the same ends? It doesn't make any sense. But when you realize that so much of this is a deception to keep us imprisoned on planet Earth and to get your money, then it actually makes a lot of sense. So yeah, the morphed integrated microwave imagery satellites. Yeah, it's like, why would people go through all the trouble to launch frickin' satellites when they've already got that covered with geostationary weather balloons? So I don't want to repeat myself too much more on that, but Let's see, anything else? Yeah, bureaucracy prevents controlled burns in California. I think that added to it. Oh, the other thing too was norovirus, N-O-R-O virus. Apparently, some of the people that have been forced out of their homes, California refugees, they're intense, and there's this norovirus going around that's very contagious. And I would just recommend to anyone that's out there possibly listening that is coming down with these symptoms, basically acute onset vomiting. Um, you'll know it if you've got it. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving health information or health advice, but MMS, chlorine dioxide, is really awesome for antiviral, antiparasitic, anti-inflammatory, antifungal, and you know, if you've got that laying around, or if you know someone that does, and you've got that norovirus that's going around in California, from what I gather, I would try it. I would try it. But that's just me, and I'm not a doctor, and I don't give medical advice. Right on. So, what else do we got here? Let me check on the chat. And anything else that you guys would like to hear? I noticed a couple people were talking about the convention. So, and there's still exactly 220 people watching now. Isn't that amazing? You guys have the best attention spans ever. Okay, Born on the Water says you cured your dog with it. Yeah, on my little butt mutt, Boo Boo, Shitsakakapoo, Lily. I used it on her. I've actually fed it to her, and I've used it topically on her. Oh, and you're not a vet, Born on the Water. Okay, cool, man. So she gets sometimes she gets fleas, and she'll bite her little tail, and she'll bite it so much that she bites like little scabs into it, and then she'll keep biting the scabs, and they turn into scales. And I try to keep a check on her, keep her good and clean, but sometimes you just have to deal with these sort of skin irritations as they come. And I've used MMS, chlorine dioxide, on her tail topically, and man, it just knocks out that inflammation and irritation. It knocks it out cold. um, I use it topically on rashes for myself, just all kinds of stuff. Apparently, from what I gather, it'll get rid of malaria within a day, one single drop of the stuff. So again, anybody out there who ends up getting this norovirus, I don't think it's deadly per se. It's not like a killer virus, but it's something that's going around. And get your hands on some MMS. I keep this stuff. So let's see here. Yeah, John Wick says MMS and CLD works. Yep. Jerry B says gave John the Colorado welcome at the convention. Yeah, Jerry B. Yeah, man. Oh, I had a great time, man. I love Colorado. I'm so thinking about moving up there. Ashley Hart says, I use Vagisil for small cuts. Wait a minute. Oh, my mind was in the gutter there. Never mind. Okay. Well, to each his own. I use Vagisil on more than that. No, I'm kidding. All right. Okay. So GMCDXX. The government released millions of mosquitoes last year in Kern County. Now, this year, we have a new strain of mosquitoes called dankle biters, which look exactly the same as the released mosquitoes. Yeah, genetically modified mosquitoes. Yeah, they've done that. They did that here in Florida. What they did was, you guys know about the whole love bugs thing, right? So I think it was at UCF or FSU, one of the Florida colleges. This is the story I understand. So if I'm wrong, correct me. I'm sure you all will. But so they genetically modified a bug that they wanted to compete with the mosquitoes for resources, and thus kill off the mosquitoes without spraying all the deadly, toxic, poisonous chemicals all in the wetlands, right? And so apparently the specimen of these genetically modified bugs got out, and basically the love bugs do absolutely nothing in terms of eating the mosquitoes, but they do love to fly around and procreate. So that's why they get the name love bugs. But yeah, whenever humankind meddles with nature and tries to fix things in nature, all we end up doing is screwing things up. And in fact, more recently than the love bugs, they did a genetically modified mosquito that doesn't bite. Okay, and what they do is they also compete for the resources of the biting mosquitoes because they do transfer diseases and stuff. Um, but yeah, we ended up with millions of excess mosquitoes that don't bite, but they're just massive, like ginormous mosquitoes, and they're just everywhere. Um, that was a while back, but you know they do this sort of thing all the time where they try to fix nature, right? So yeah. Okay, so next comment, Manny Tesla says, I've done 2 long distance runs in this NorCal polluted air and no ill effects yet. Honestly, this is the worst I've seen in 34 years. Yeah, I know what you mean. About 20 years ago, maybe a little longer, 25 years ago, in Florida. God, it was probably longer than that. Anyway, long damn time ago, there was like the whole Ocala National Forest in Florida was on fire, or maybe it wasn't Ocala, but like the whole damn state was on fire, and we were 100 miles away. And we got smoke. Smoke just fell onto the towns all over the place for months. So, you know, hopefully you guys don't have to put up with that for months. But I know what you mean. It's makes you nauseous and it's dangerous. So don't be doing too many long distance run out there, man. You know, try to keep yourself safe if you have to anyway. Okay, I done lost my place here. Okay. So Ashley Hart says, God, I hope he doesn't read my comment. Oh, well, now I have to, now that you said that. Oh, yeah, I did already. Okay. Sorry. I just got that, Ashley. Okay. So preserving the truth says, never forget money, money, money. Follow the bucks. Indeed, indeed, indeed. So yeah, let's see here. We've been going almost 2 hours already. It sure goes by, doesn't it? I think I will be wrapping this one up pretty soon, but just wanted to say, really, you know, thanks to everyone that helped me get to Denver and helped me get home. I wasn't able to do it without you. And you know, another thing I want to close with. Do I think Kent Hovind is a shill? I don't know, man. The guy sat in jail for 9 years for something stupid. You know, if they told him, or if I was in that position and they told me, if you come out as a flat earther, you're going back to jail, man, I would be a globe earth troll. I really would. You know, that's your damn freedom. And he was in there for 9 years. So maybe that's it. Maybe, you know, maybe it is blackmail, you know, maybe they're leveraging him because he don't want to go back to jail. Maybe not. Maybe he's just a complete globe Earth believer. You know, we were all there at some point where we poo-pooed flat Earth, but for someone as bright and as smart as Kent Hovind to continue ignoring the facts and changing his position, like I did a video response where he said um, he changed his stance on the moon landings. He said, well, he believed that the moon landing footage was faked, but he also believed that they went to the moon. So they faked it. They filmed a fake moon landing before they ever went, just in case they needed it. But then they actually went to the moon and then came back and used the faked moon landing footage. I mean, that's where he's allegedly at. Now, to me, you know, I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I don't buy that somebody as smart and as I mean, that dude's smart as a damn whip. I mean, if you've ever watched him speak, you can't argue with that. Um, but you know, for him to just continue vehemently denying flat Earth facts and ignoring the facts and changing his position, yeah, that doesn't that doesn't jive well with me. Um, but okay, so Logan Paul. All right, well, I didn't get to see him there. I never knew who he was until a couple of weeks ago. And the reason that I knew who he was, this is going to sound so silly. Okay, I didn't know who Logan Paul was, but I got clickbaited into watching a PewDiePie video, I believe. And in the PewDiePie video, he was doing a response to Logan Paul's music video. And he was PewDiePie was making fun of Logan Paul. And so that triggered me to go and watch the music video, which I did. I watched about 10 seconds of it, and as Logan Paul was talking about how many cars he has and how rich he is and how many mansions he has, it kind of made me sick on my stomach, and I cut it off. And that was all I had known about Logan Paul until the other day. And apparently, he was the mystery celebrity for the Flat Earth 2018 conference, and not a lot of people were apparently happy with that. But I don't care. I really don't give a damn. Honestly, it could have been Crocodile Dundee, or it could have been Who Framed Roger Rabbit, or it could have been who cares? As long as that person is getting flat Earth out, the more the merrier. That's what I always say. If the guy is going to stab us in the back, then clearly I'm not going to be on board with that. But I'm not going to try to stop people from coming out of the closet as flat earthers, especially if they have millions of followers. I'm not going to, hate on him either. You know, so I think it's a good thing, unless he just totally stabs us in the back and pulls like a Tiger Dan 2.0, right? Yeah, hidden in plain sight. I so totally want to move out west. I really love Colorado, man. I love the fact that weed is legal out there. I'm just going to come right out and say it. Um, you know what you have to go through to get weed in illegal states. I mean, the people in Colorado, they do appreciate it. You can tell, but they kind of take it for granted because it's old news. Like to me, I'm like a kid in a candy store, man. Because where I live, if you get caught with a joint, and maybe not so much anymore, but if you get caught with a joint, you're going to jail, and yeah, you're going to have lots of fines and community service and probation and this is a plant that grows in the ground. And so, just being able to go up to the best smelling store I've ever walked into in my life and choose from your selection from about 100 different types of really awesome dank, um, and smoke a joint directly in front of a police officer, man, that feels like a free country. But here where I live, if you go walking down the joint smoking walking down the street smoking a joint, you're going to jail. Yeah, Florida. The motto of Florida is "Come on vacation, leave on probation," because it's true, man. It's a police state, and yeah. I was just saying, I'd love to move out west, and if we buy some property anytime in the next couple of years, like we're planning, it's going to be. I'd like to pick a state where it's legal because, man, like everything was different there. Like the people were so much more lax and like friendly and like just happy, man. Like it's a different culture altogether. Everybody was stoned. No, but yeah, it was just a totally different culture, and yeah, I want to.
Stressed out or nothing.
Yeah, I want to move to one of those states, and
It's gonna be our summer place.
yeah, I summer in Weedland now. So you can hate me, you can judge me, but it's medicine, man. It's good for you, good for your eyes, good for your soul, good for your appetite, good for all sorts of medical purposes. You can build things out of it. You can make fuel out of it. Soap, rope, and it comes out that one of the biggest reasons that pot was made illegal was at the hands of the usual suspects, the J.P. Morgans and the DuPonts, and they had plastic and nylon that they wanted to use to build things with, and they wanted their stuff out there, synthetic plastic and nylon rope. And hemp, pot, you can make better stuff way cheaper out of hemp. You can make structural steel basically out of hemp that's lighter and stronger than steel, and it grows out of the ground. You can make paper out of it. I mean, anything. You can make fuel out of it, anything. And so these capitalists, these robber barons, the bloodlines of the Illuminati guys, um, they saw that as a major threat, and so they had to do something about it so they could sell us their plastic, which is polluting the crap out of the world, and nylon, which if you've ever used nylon ropes much, that crap sucks, dude. Like eventually it just wears out. A good hemp rope lasts you forever. Never, you'd never have to worry about that thing busting. Nylon, it's cheap garbage, pollutant, but of course, the profit of these corporations is way more important than anything else in the world. So they made pot illegal and just did propaganda campaigns. You want to talk about scientism, liontism. Look at the reefer madness campaigns, where even to the day that they died, my grandparents, which my grandfather was a World War II vet and my grandmother was a cigarette model back in the roaring 20s and 30s, for their entire adult lives, they thought that pot would make you go crazy and foam at the mouth and go jump out of windows and go and murder people or whatever because of these propaganda campaigns. And to the day they die, that's what they thought. My grandmother had glaucoma, and she had to get the eye surgery in order to get rid of it. But little did she know, perhaps she could have avoided that altogether by partaking in the Buddha. You know, so, but that's just crazy, man. So yeah, well, I got off on a tangent there, didn't I? So let's see here.
Johnny Rant.
Johnny Rants, yeah. Noel Adams says, I had it. Oh my God, I thought I was going to die. Had what? No, I don't know. Never forget, it's 4:20 in Canada every day. Yeah. Born on the Water says he's jealous now.
On that one.
Yeah. So JP Morgan, yeah. So okay, well I think yeah, we went right out to 2 hours, so I think I'm gonna wrap it up. But just a big shout out to everybody, man. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, everybody that I met out there, give me a call if you can. I've tried to get everyone's numbers, and I got a handful of people's numbers, but my phone is just a piece. So hit me up, send me a text. It's probably better off if you do text me, because if I get phone calls from a number I don't recognize, I usually tend to ignore it because I get like a dozen telemarketer calls every single day. Well, I'll try and answer them. But yeah, hit me up, you guys, if I didn't get your info at the conference, or really anybody out there. If you want to give me a call or send me a text, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about whatever's. So hit me up, 864-315-7892. Oh, Born on the Water says nylon doesn't rot. Right, but I guess wear and tear is what I'm saying. Like if you use nylon, I know I've used nylon sorts of fibers, materials where, yeah, sure, it works fine, but over time, the wear and tear, the shit just, the stuff is cheap. Wow. Smoke one for me, poopy pants.
People could grow it and make their own rope.
Well, right, with hemp, you can make your own stuff. It's natural. Anybody can make it. Oh, yeah, medicinal oils.
Yeah, so it was kind of a threat to the rich DuPonts.
Ashley Hart says, make up with my father, please. I don't know, man. It's too freaking bizarre. It's too weird.
So anyway,
it's 4:20 somewhere. But yeah, so yeah, give us a call, and also if you'd like to support the channel, could sure use your help. It was a very expensive trip, and although I did get help from everybody or several people up there, I think I spent all in all over $500 in gas going up there and back. And what I was going to say before, I love Flat Earth so much that when I left out of here, drove my new car. Well, it's not new. It's a 92 Camry. I paid $200 for it. Drove out of Florida 1,800 miles to Colorado with $400, less than $350, which I wasn't even sure if the car was going to make it. I wasn't sure if it would be enough gas money. I figured I had enough gas money, but when we went up there, I didn't have any sort of solid way to make it all the way back home, and I just took it on faith, and and it worked out. And so that's,
it was all worth it.
I don't try to make plans too much, because the more that I plan, this is my life. The more that I plan and put my ducks in a row, the more God throws me curveballs, man. It's like,
I don't think it's God. I think it might be Satan.
Keeping me on my toes. But like, I don't like to. You ruined my train of thought. I don't like to plan. I don't like to plan so much as because things can change. But so instead of planning for things and putting ducks in a row, I tend to just have a general idea of where I want to get, and just put it in God's hands, and usually He gets me where I'm supposed to be. Right? What's that? Oh yeah. Well, so anyway, if you'd like to support the channel, www.paypal.me/TheMorgile or www.patreon.com/TheMorgile. And wow, there's still 220 people watching as I wrap up. So that's just really weird. I think something's wrong with that. There's been 220 people watching this the whole time with no fluctuation. So anyway, thanks so much, guys. Love y'all. And as always, spread the word, spread the world, and peace out, everybody. Keep it flat, peoples. And we'll see you in the next video or stream. Stop it.